In my last video, I praised the Monta SkyQuest GMT, calling it one of the best sub $3,000 watches I've ever reviewed. If you're shopping for a new GMT, the Monta is definitely worth a look. Unless you're allergic to good deals, then maybe not. But let's be real, if you're considering a Monta, you've probably also eyed the Tudor Black Bay 58 GMT. Both watches look very similar and share some design inspiration. And if you've looked at the Tudor, you've definitely pondered the big brother, the GMT Master 2 from Rolex. So let's pit these three GMTs against one another and do an in-depth comparison. Now each watch is priced in a different year, so the comparison doesn't make a lot of sense. But hey, we're talking about luxury timepieces that run on gears and springs in 2024. So what really makes sense? So in this video, we are going to compare these three GMTs to determine the best option for your money. We'll rank the watches across 7 categories, and I'll give them a score out of 10 for each category. At the end, let's see which watch comes out on top. Some of these categories have subjective opinions, so if you don't agree with me, let's argue in the comments, because nothing brings people together like pointless internet fights, am I right? Okay, let's go. Let's start off with the most subjective category, the design. Right off the bat, I think the Monta has a great design. I like the aluminium Pepsi bezel with the gilt accents as well as the large indices and prominent hands. The red GMT hands offer a nice contrast from the other hands and make the watch easy to read. The 6 o'clock date window ensures symmetry on the dial if that matters to you. Overall, I think this is a good looking watch. I'll give the Monta an 8 out of 10 for design. The Tudor has a red and black aluminium bezel, again with gilt accents. I'm a fan of the Coke bezel and actually like it more than the Pepsi color scheme. But something about the design feels off. In my opinion, the bezel is too thin and so are the hands, especially the GMT hand. I also feel like there might be just too much gold here. Said no one ever. But see, the hour markers on the bezel are gold, the hands are gold, and so is the text on the dial. I also don't love the fact that all hands are the same color. Maybe it's just my eyes, but I feel that some contrast here would have made the watch easier to read. Combined with the thin bezel and hands, and gold overload, this design looks slightly unbalanced to me. For these reasons, I'll give the Tudor a 6 out of 10. Now the Rolex. The GMT Master 2 or Bad Girl has a blue and black ceramic bezel. The bezel as well as the overall layout is extremely well designed. The whole watch looks balanced with a well-proportioned bezel, sizable hour markers and indices. The deep black dial makes the white text prominent and easy to read. Each hand on the watch is unique, which further helps with the legibility. And yes, I'm one of those people who likes the Cyclops lens. But unless you like the cubitus and have questionable taste in general, I think you'll agree that the Rolex is the best designed watch of the three. And this iconic design has been evolving for 70 years, so this shouldn't be a surprise. I'll give the BL&R a 9 out of 10 for design. I'll start off by saying that all watches are finished to a pretty high standard. All three watches have similar dimensions as well, making them universally wearable. As you can see, each watch wears similarly on my 6-inch wrist. While the Tudor and Rolex have flat, slab-sided cases, the SkyQuest has slightly more curved lugs as well as a fine bevel along its edges, which is a nice touch. All three watches have satin finished tops with polished sides. The Rolex case is however the shiniest. While the Monta and Tudor are made of 316L stainless steel, the Rolex is made of 904L stainless steel. To 99% of people, this should mean nothing. But if you're a watch bro, you know that 904L steel is more corrosion resistant and slightly shinier than 316L. I don't know if it's the upgraded steel or better overall construction, but the Rolex also feels the most solid in hand, followed by the Tudor and then the Monta. But the difference is very subtle. I won't rule out the fact that I may just be imagining it. The Rolex hands and indices are also made of white gold instead of regular steel. Don't know if it makes any practical difference, but it's a nice flex for Rolex. All watches have okay bezels. If you're hoping to have any of these bezels as a stress reliever, lower your expectations. The Tudor's bezel is probably the best of the bunch, but none of them really stand out. This might be okay for the more affordable Monta, but I would have liked to see better from Tudor and especially from Rolex. I'll give both the Monta and the Tudor an 8 out of 10, while the Rolex gets a 9 for the higher quality materials and a more premium feel. The movement is where the gulf in brand power is really evident. The Monta uses the relatively more simple caliber M23, which is a modified Sellita 330-1 movement. while the Rolex and Tudor use in-house GMT movements. The movement in the Monta is a collar or office GMT. This means that the GMT hand can be set independently and is meant to track the time in another location. The primary hour hand points to your local time and moves along with the minutes. A collar GMT is useful if you want to track another time zone from your local time zone. The Rolex and Tudor, on the other hand, are flyer or true GMTs. On these, the GMT hand needs to be set with the minutes hand, while the primary hour hand can be set independently. This main hour hand tracks your current time zone when you travel, while the GMT hand is meant to track your home time. True GMTs are useful if you travel often and need to jump the local hour hand forward or backwards without moving the GMT hand, which tracks your home time. If that was all a bit too technical, the gist is that collar GMTs, like in the Monta, are more basic and more readily available. Historically, true GMT movements like in the Tudor or Rolex were harder to make and more rare. As much as I like true GMTs, collar GMTs are more useful for me since they are better for tracking my family's time zone. The Monta also gets brownie points for offering an exhibition case back, but loses those brownie points for not decorating the movement enough. This movement runs at 4 Hz and has a power reserve of 56 hours. While Monta do not advertise any accuracy claims, I found the movement running within just a few seconds of perfect timing every day. Monta offer a 2-year warranty with their watches. The Tudor, however, guarantees accuracy no worse than plus 5 seconds a day with the in-house MT5450-U movement that's both COSC and META certified. In addition to the accuracy, the movement boasts a 70-hour power reserve and has been thoroughly tested over several days. The watch is also amagnetic to at least 15,000 Gauss, which sounds like a whole lot of Gausses to me. In short, this is a super reliable and accurate movement. Rolex takes it a step further with a superlative chronometer certification with even more testing and an accuracy guarantee of -2 to +2 seconds a day. This movement also has a 70-hour power reserve. The 3285 caliber powering the BLNR is as solid and reliable as any GMT movement out there. Both Tudor and Rolex also offer a 5-year warranty. So for the movement, I give the Monta a 7, the Tudor an 8.5, and the Rolex a 9 out of 10. By the way, if you're enjoying the video so far, please hit the thumbs. It helps out a lot. Thank you. Coming to the bracelets, the Monta has a solid, comfortable steel bracelet. The links fully articulate and conform to the wrist nicely. The bracelet also comes with half links as well as on-the-fly micro adjust with 3 positions. The one small complaint I have with the SkyQuest is that the clasp is too long. It measures roughly 40mm, while the Black Bay and BLNR clasps measure 32mm. This makes the Monta clasp 25% larger than the others for no apparent reason. The Tudor bracelet is just as comfortable as the Montas, but the T-Fit clasp offers even more micro adjust with 5 adjustments available. The clasp is decently sized and the 4 rivets don't bother me. The Jubilee bracelet on the Batgirl is definitely the most comfortable and best looking. The bracelet really hugs the wrist well while still being breathable. The clasp is decently sized and feels the best to operate. However, the EasyLink adjustment on the bracelet is all in or nothing. You either get 5mm of adjustment or nothing at all. The Monta and Tudor offer more granularity in terms of adjustment. Plus, the large polished center part of the clasp scratches like a cat on a sofa, so it can be an eyesore for some people. I am some people. This is why the Rolex bracelet loses some points. I'll give it an 8 out of 10. The Monta gets the same, and the Tudor gets a 9. Now let's talk about the wearability. This category basically refers to the daily practicality of the watch. Can you wear it every day? Can you go swimming with it? Or can you wear it in the dark? What kind of attention is it going to attract? And stuff like that. With 300 meters of water resistance, the Monta is a true dive watch in addition to being a GMT. With solid lume, the watch can go anywhere with you. Most importantly, the watch isn't going to attract any unwanted attention to itself. I would say it's extremely practical. 9 out of 10. The Tudor is pretty much the same as the Monta in terms of practicality and lume performance. However, it loses half a point compared to the Monta for less water resistance, but gets half a point more for being more anti-magnetic. 9 out of 10. The BLNR, like any Rolex, is reliable and robust. It's the most legible of the 3 and has the best lume in my opinion. However, it only has 100 meters of water resistance, which is plenty for daily activity, but less than the Tudor or the Monta. But the worst part about wearing a Rolex is the unwanted eyes it attracts. Personally, I don't feel comfortable wearing my Rolex to work. The Jubilee bracelet is so beautiful, but it's so flashy. I don't want my colleagues to notice my watch. That's just how I am. But that's a non-issue compared to all the horror stories we've heard of people being mugged for wearing Rolexes. For these reasons, I would say that the Rolex is unfortunately not as practical as a daily wear as the Monta or Tudor. I'll give it a 7 out of 10. The Monta is priced a little over $2,400, while the Tudor is almost double at $4,600. The GMT Master 2 on Jubilee is priced at $10,900. I think the Monta packs a lot of value at that price, offering a solid gateway into Swiss watches without breaking the bank. It checks all boxes and doesn't miss any features. 8 out of 10. The Tudor at $4,600 does offer a lot of value in its own right, but I don't think it offers as much bang for your buck as the Monta. Plus there's gonna be some depreciation on the Tudor and you'll lose money if you try to sell it. So I'm gonna give the Black Bay a 7 out of 10 for price. While the Rolex costs twice as much as the Tudor and 4 times the Monta, I think you'll struggle to find a better watch at that price. The GMT Master 2 is such a solid, iconic watch that the price tag is almost justified. What's more is that any stainless steel GMT sells for significantly over retail on the secondary market. So you're almost guaranteed to not lose money on this watch. In fact, you'll probably make 50% or more if you try to sell your watch. For this reason, the Rolex gets a 10 out of 10 for price and value for money. Monta is a young American independent brand founded in 2015. The Monta community is strong with a small but passionate fan base. But in the grand scheme of things, Monta is an unknown brand in terms of brand value and reputation. Tudor is definitely more popular worldwide and Rolex is the king, at least in terms of global recognition. Personally, I think brand value is overrated, but I'd be lying if I say it doesn't matter. Brands like Tudor and Rolex give people an assurance that they're buying a product that's been around for decades and will probably be around for decades longer. So the Monta is a 6, the Tudor is an 8, and the Rolex is a 10 for brand value. Okay, we're done with all 7 categories. Time to tally the scores. The Monta performs well in almost all categories and gets a solid score of 54 out of 70. While I don't personally love the Tudor, it's a very well-rounded watch and just edges out the Monta with a score of 55.5 on 70. And the Rolex easily comes out on top with a score of 62 on 70. So there's no doubt that the GMT Master 2 is the best watch of the 3. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. It's up to you to decide whether it's twice as good as the Black Bay GMT or 4 times as good as the Monta. I certainly don't think it is. I think the SkyQuest is a great watch in its own right and scores almost as well as the Black Bay, just twice as expensive. It's up to you to decide which category is more important to you. If the movement is the most important, the Tudor or the Rolex would be the obvious choices. But if you prefer design more, I would choose the Monta over the Tudor any day. I know this video had several controversial opinions. I would like to know if you agree or disagree with any of my choices. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Please do hit the like button if you appreciated the video and consider subscribing for more. These videos take a lot of time and effort to make, so I would appreciate any motivation I can get. Thanks a lot. Talk to you soon.